There she is.
Hey, team.
Hello.
How are you way over there?
How are you? You were sick the last time,
I'm
right?
great. Guess what? I'm shifting over there.
Yeah.
Don't be so excited. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that could be good and fun.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Children's Trust regular board meeting of December the 9th. And what we'll do, I have to make some comments, so I'll do that first. Any member of the public wishing to be heard shall come forward to the podium there at the appropriate time and introduce themselves to the board. Members of the public recognized by the chair will have 3 minutes to speak on any single subject matter or to address the current motion on the board. The clerk of the trust will function as official timekeeper, and that is Ashley over there. The clerk will now call roll call, but first I want to say it's great. We got some big checks to give today, and I want to welcome our guests here. We don't get a whole lot of that, and it's a special day for that. It's also a special day because I'm no longer going to be the chair in about 15 minutes, so that's a good thing too. So 5 minutes. Yes, Ashley.
Here.
Member Chance. Member Cornell.
Here.
Member Ferrero.
Here.
Member Hart. Here. Member Labarda.
Here.
Member Patton. Member Pinkerton.
Here.
Member Twombly.
Yeah.
She's here, but she's, because she is doing, disaster relief, the next thing, we have a quorum, and, as a board, what we can do is under special circumstances like the one that, member Twombly is currently experiencing, we have the ability to allow her to not only, participate, but also to vote on the motions. So if one of the board members would
I
be.
would move that we have an extenuating circumstance and allow member Twombly to participate in vote remotely.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item would be to the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. Should there not be any changes, Marcia?
No, sir.
Move
Okay.
approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Do we have any public discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
The next item would be general public comments. If you have anything that you would like to share with the board, this would be the appropriate time to do so. Okay. The next item will be, before we get to the chair's report, I would like one last thing would be today, the library closes at 6 and we have a really full agenda. So as a board, it would be great. Staff has been told, they have, if you notice, they're wearing collars, shot collars that if they go too long. The board needs to kind of do the same thing so we can get everybody out and then clean up and go about their business. So with that, Madam Executive Director.
Thank you, sir. We have a board member coming in. Hello, hello. If you all would grant me a point of privilege, I'm going to shift a couple of things around and do the acknowledgements. Where Dr. Patton isn't here yet.
Hold the mic close.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Patton isn't here yet for the swearing in, so I'd like to do the recognitions now, if that's okay. That way we'll continue to move with the agenda. I have to walk to the other side of the room. You okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sirs?
So this is item 10.
Actually, you know what? I could go ahead and do the election of officers unless you want to, if you want to. Well, go ahead, you're over there, and then we'll do the election of officers.
I'll check.
Huh?
I'll check.
Go ahead.
Um, you never know when you're gonna find out some bittersweet sweet news. I received a message from Judge Vera this afternoon, or rather a little earlier today, that this is going to be her last meeting with us. And we could not let you leave us without showing you a little token of our appreciation for everything that you have done. Your thoughtfulness, your consideration, and just you being of service to the trust and the families of the county. So I would like to present you with a little token of our gratitude for everything that you.
Nice token.
Yes, and I think I was gonna announce this at the end, but this is going to be my last trust meeting. I'm still gonna be a judge, so don't worry, don't panic. I found out just very recently that I just found out very recently that I'm being transferred to a new division. This seat requires someone who has a juvenile division, and I won't have that in January, so I'll be transitioning off the trust. I have really felt very honored to be on the trust, felt like it's making a difference in the lives of children in Alachua County. It's very important to me. I don't know who is going to keep yelling problem responsiveness without me. Thank you. Because that's really, and I do appreciate that the staff and the trust has made such a huge leap in terms of making sure that the people that we serve and we give money to are trauma responsive to children. That's very important to me. And I have really enjoyed it. So thank you so much, Marcia. And I appreciate your sweet, small little token of, I'm gonna need a handler to get out of here. Thank you again.
And Judge, just want to tell you that you've been an incredible asset to the board. You know, you not real talkative, but when you talk, we listen because what you have to say is important. And where you come from as far as your experiences really help us as far as understand things that maybe we wouldn't understand ordinarily. So we can't tell you thank you enough.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Marcia, I tell you what, let me go ahead and do this chair thing.
Okay.
And then.
And then you'll let me do the last, okay.
Okay. And then, did you want to do the oath?
Yeah, we gotta do the oath.
Poinsettia lady?
Yes, sir.
I believe we can do the oath.
I'm doing it.
One more time?
Okay, I'm doing it.
Okay.
Oh, yes,
You're doing it for the, Dr. Packer?
yes.
Okay, good. That's what I'm doing. Well, you guys.
Welcome, Dr. Patton.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're about to get sworn in, so you can get sworn at.
And hopefully not sworn at. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and of the state of Florida, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of a board member of the Children's Trust of Alachua County, on which I am now about to enter.
So help me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dr. Patton, would you like to say anything?
Sure. So, thank you, for a very nice warm welcome and to our crew that's here participating too. Thank you for being here. It's really my honor to have this opportunity to, be the interim superintendent for Alachua County and the different, aspects that you get to participate in, one of which is this, the Children's Trust. I'm a big believer in the Children's Trust because in reality, schools are not islands amongst themselves. They're part of a community and part of a larger community called our county. There is no way we can do what we know needs to be done to help children by ourselves. So by having a children's trust, our kids are so very blessed and fortunate to have so many, not only dollars, but then the programs that they're exposed to because of the Children's Trust. So I can't tell you what an exciting privilege it is to be not only in this county, but have a partner like the Children's Trust. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you and welcome and
Thank you.
we look forward to your input.
All right.
Okay, election of officers. At this time, I would like to discuss the election of the officers for the Children's Trust Board. According to our bylaws and the order of succession, the current vice president, Ken, will become the new chair. The current treasurer will become the vice chair, and we need a new treasurer. I guess first thing would be to nominate a new chair, a new treasurer.
So I would nominate Dr. Labarda to be the treasurer. Mary, I was thinking I wanted to nominate you, but perhaps if it would be okay, I would nominate Dr. Labarda.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. And so it would be member Labarda as the treasurer, Ken as the president or the chair, and
Cheryl.
Cheryl's
and
vice
who? Cheryl is the vice chair.
Cheryl's the vice.
Okay. All right, so we
So
have
that's
a
my-
motion.
That's my motion.
Okay, have a motion. Do we have, and we had a second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, congratulations, Maggie and Cheryl.
Why are you running? So you seem like you're trying to run out the spot.
I am.
Golly.
And it's with a great honor. There you go. All right.
For my first, yeah, I'll let you stay there for the first order of business. How about that? All right, so Madam Executive Director, you want to continue with item 10? No, yeah. With your personal privilege, carry that over to him. Yeah,
Thank you.
Put it on this side of you. How about that?
That's
let's put it on the ground.
Yeah, because it'll block Nancy.
Actually, we just put it right here and I can be incognito
No.
for the rest of the meeting.
No.
Again, just a token of our appreciation for everything that you have done and you are doing on behalf of the trust. It has been a wonderful year of me missing Lee comes to our building at least twice a week. He gets there early, I get there late. But you have been such a diligent, committed chair. We staff truly appreciate you, all that you bring, your knowledge. There is not a thing that we talk about that you don't have some kind of a point of reference for. We so appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. And you were doing great until you said no.
You want to say a few words, Lee?
No, I just thank Marcia, thank everybody associated with the staff. We are very fortunate to have an absolutely fantastic staff. They work very hard. You know, and it's because of their efforts that it makes us look good. And y'all keep making us look better and better and better. The strides that we've taken in the last year or so has been amazing. The trust that has been demonstrated towards the trust has really become increased exponentially. And I can't say thank you enough for that because we really do have an important mission. So thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to say a few other words because I'm going to brag on our former chair. So for those of you that don't
Remember,
know,
5:45.
yeah, it's going to be brief, but it's important. For those of you that don't know, I was elected in my first term and Lee in his last term in 2014. And at the time, there was not a children's trust. And that commission decided to invest. We had a debt ad valorem coming off of the rolls, and we decided to take that money and invest in the origins of the Children's Trust. We then put that on the ballot, and the voters decided to tax themselves because of this important endeavor called the Children's Trust. But not for this gentleman and his leadership and much of the leadership of this community. We would not be here today, and children would not have the opportunity to, as Lee used to say, they don't ask to be born, but when they get brought into this earth, they should have every opportunity in the world. And Lee, I want to thank you. When he was sworn in on in 2014, his wife made him swear that this was his last county commission. She didn't say last public service. And so he was a governor appointee. We obviously put him up, and he has served admirably since the origin of the trust. And Lee, thank you, thank you, thank you, and stay involved and continue to share your wisdom with this board.
You're mighty kind. Thank you very much.
Give him a round of applause. Okay, with that, we're gonna get moving now on agenda item 9, which is the December 9th Executive Director Report. Madam
Okay.
Director.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really just a couple of thank yous. It's the year end, right? October begins our new fiscal year, and a lot goes into closing out the previous fiscal year. I wanted to take a moment to thank our fiscal staff, starting with Scott, Nicole, Janine, Thomas, Tara, and Simone. They are truly rock stars. As of last week, I believe we are done with fiscal year 2024. So thank you, thank you, thank you to our fiscal team for the heavy lift, the efficiencies. You all are truly rock stars, and you are appreciated. Thank you. At your desk, you will see hot off the presses an annual report. Yay! This document requires everybody's effort, but it truly requires the coordination and management of our communications team. So I wanted to publicly say thank you to Kirsten, standing back there, and Miranda, her intern, for all of your hard work on pulling together, really herding us cats to get us to do our part in getting everything together for our annual report. You all, isn't it beautiful? You're going to hear something shortly about our cover, so I'm not going to steal Kirsten's thunder for that. But great report, lots of goodies inside. We are so very thrilled. It was another great year for the Children's Trust of Alachua County. And then lastly, I want to thank, there she is. I want to thank Liz over there in the corner. Community engagement continues to kill it. We had the opportunity, the pleasure of being in the holiday parade on Saturday. The team was there. Our digital, what was that thing? Thank you, billboard truck. It was a lot of fun. We always love when we have the opportunity to be in the community. So Liz, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Kirsten, because Kirsten put all that data together for the digital billboard. Thank you guys for all of your hard work. So really, this was just my way of saying thank you to the team for always coming through and doing what they do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any questions for Marcia? Very impressive annual report. Any questions or comments? All right, so thank you for that. I would say that I serve on a number of boards. Library District has always set the standard, but I'm going to be delivering this to them in the library because we have a whole new standard. So great job. All right, the next item is the Speak Your Piece Art Contest.
Yes.
Recommended action is to approve, staff recommends approval. And who's presenting this item?
Kirsten is
Okay,
going to tell you a
Kirsten,
little bit about it.
you want to tell us a little bit about it, and we'll get us a motion?
Thank you, guys. So for the first time, we ran a high school art competition, and the goal was to get our annual report cover. And so this lovely piece here was created by Jaden Alfonso, who I would like for Jaden to come on up. to get some recognition. Jaden is a senior at First Christian Academy, and that is in High Springs. And Jaden, I would like for you to have this large version of your artwork. It is actually bigger than real life version. But we also have the originals over here on the table as well. If you'd like to take a look at them. Her artwork is stunning. You can tell it reproduced really well, but if you want to look at the original really is beautiful on its own. So I'll hand you that. Along with that, we have your
So real quick, before we do that, so the recommended action is to receive the information, recognize the winners, runners up and their guests. So can we get a
Staff recommendation. So moved.
have a second?
second.
We got a second. Any comments, any discussion? Back to the board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now you officially can start passing out some checks. All right.
So the more exciting thing I think for Jaden to hold up now is this large version of a check.
Yeah.
So, Jaden, if you wouldn't mind. Point at that direction.
Yay, Jaden.
If you'd like to say anything, please.
Jaden, give us some thoughts. Tell us about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this art contest was first introduced to me by my wonderful teacher, Miss Wolcott, and it was her idea, so I have to thank her for helping me out with it. Yeah, I really enjoyed working on this. The process of it was so much fun, and this was just a wonderful experience for me to be able to receive this award. So I thank you guys as well for establishing this art contest. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to acknowledge the second place winner as well, Francesca Melendez. I believe, yes, she's here as well. She is a senior at Eastside High School, and your name on it?
Francesca.
Jessica, would you like to say a few words?
I'm not really sure what to say besides thank you, but in general, I'm really thankful for this contest. Like artistically, it gave me a chance to like experiment and like grow, but also it's nice to have an opportunity to like create a piece of artwork for like something like as meaningful as like the Children's Trust Fund, like your organization's mission. It felt nice to be able to somewhat like maybe contribute just a bit to that. So yes, thank you so much again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
last but certainly not least is Leah Sanchez. Leah's out here at the front. Leah is a senior at Lofton High School.
Leah.
Leah, you want to say a few words?
Hi, I'm very thankful for this opportunity to be recognized for this art piece. And it's a beautiful art piece that I loved. And it's of me and my mother. She's right there.
No.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Please, again, give everyone's artwork a look at the end. They really did a wonderful job. And these pieces of art will also go to live in our office building. I believe it'll be right there in the foyer. So
That's
if
great.
you guys visit our office at some point, that is where your artwork will be as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well done. All right, any comments? All right, let's move on to the next item, which is done by our county, our Children's Trust Attorney, Mr. Bob Swain, training on the public records. There's no action, but Bob, go ahead. You have the floor.
Board members, you have a copy of the salient points of my presentation in your notebook. That's something you take home if you just happen to leave your notebook here normally. Because it really is a good summary of what the law is. I have basically said the same thing to this board several times. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this time because you have a lot of business tonight. Basically, a public record is anything that is created in the course and scope of your job in the public as a public officer or a public employee. That's a document, an email, a text, any tangible item can be a public record. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's created on a public machine. So someone who actually has a county or trust computer issued to them can create a document that's not a public record. So it's all content based. There are exemptions and the legislature adds to them and deletes from them all the time. So it's one of those things that our office is kept very busy with for the county. And the trust has a officer that does the same thing. There are two different levels of exemption. There's exemption, which means you don't have to give it up. You can give it up. And then there's confidential, which means you don't give it up without a court order. Even a subpoena can't reach it. It has to be a court order. And those are things that are specifically listed by statute. Now, there are some things that we will occasionally deal with that may have federal protections, and in which case federal law will supersede state law. When we produce documents, we redact. We have to produce anything that is not protected, and that means we redact a lot of things sometimes. Personal notes. This is something that always gets people's curiosity. If you're taking notes today, that's not a public record, except if you're taking notes for purposes of taking the minutes. Then it's a public record until the minutes are completed, and then you can get rid of it. So personal notes are never public record because they're taken not to document the meeting for public purposes. However, if you share your notes with someone else, then they can become public record. Whenever in doubt, ask your attorney. Social media can be a public record. And so that's something that we advise people to be very careful of what they put on social media. Because that is a very sticky area at present. It's more sticky in the area of sunshine laws. And I will talk about that in a moment. Public record can reach into your private devices. So if you create public records on your smartphones or personal laptops, then you are the records custodian of those public records, unless you do what I advise you to do, which is screenshot it or send a copy of it to staff. And then it goes into the county's mail server, and nothing ever gets deleted from that. And I mean, nothing ever gets deleted from that. And they'll be able to do a search if anyone asks for it and pull it up. Generally, even if the retention schedule and the state of Florida puts out a retention schedule for all public records has expired on a document. If you still have the document, it is still a public record. So just because it is 20 years old, if it was a public record, then it's still a public record now. Copies. You are not required to retain copies of public records. So you can take this entire packet and throw it in the garbage. You don't have to, You can take it for, your own personal use, but there is no retention on it. But if someone asks you for a copy of it, you have a copy and that can be a public record. But there's no retention requirement on copies, which is important. Now, CTAC has its own exemption, which is information received from parents or program vendors regarding family identifying information. That is something that is protected under Florida law under the Sunshine Act. And there may be every once in a while some federal protections depending on who our vendors are. The Sunshine Law, any general questions on the public records law, just assume if you create a document, it's a public record, if it's done as part of your job and with the county, not the county, pardon me, I think of the county all the time, with the Children's Trust. And that's why it's so important to give a copy to staff, because they will retain it. Public Sunshine Law. This is where two members of the same collegial body cannot meet without it being noticed. All of y'all are members of a collegial body. This collegial body, the Children's Trust of Alachua County. You cannot meet with another member to discuss business that is likely to come before the board without it being noticed. That doesn't mean you can't run into each other at the grocery store, at a Gator game, and talk about anything not to do with the trust. As long as it's not something that will come before the trust or is likely to come before the trust. So you don't have to turn around and run the other direction if you see Ken walking down the grocery aisle. This impacts not only verbal communications, but it impacts else. So a public record can be the conduit for a Sunshine Law violation, texts, and social media. And where you get into the trouble with social media is that one board member can say one thing and then another board member will reply and say, I don't agree with that. Generally, board members are allowed to push one-way information out. They can state their position, even if it's the opposite of another position that has been stated. You get into really questionable areas if you start doing that in a non-noticed meeting, I will tell you. But it is allowable. You just don't engage between the two of you. That's where it often crosses the lines because people want to know, well, how's that different? Why do you disagree? You can't get into that discussion at a non-publicized meeting, on non-noticed meeting. Now,
Bob, could you bring that a little bit closer to you? Yeah, thank you.
where this gets a little hinky for this board is y'all meet with a lot of other boards, or you may individually attend a lot of boards. For example, one of you could attend a Board of County Commissioners meeting where Commissioner Cornell is seated and talk about something that you want the county to engage with the trust. So you have something that may involve the trust down the road, and you have something that has not been noticed for trust business. Our office has a split of opinion on that. The state attorney general says that if it has been noticed as a public meeting, the fact that someone from another body is addressing business that's appropriate for the body that has noticed it is not a violation of the Sunshine Law. Better practice is notice it both ways. That is how the county attorney prefers things be done. Notice it both ways, because then no one can complain. But the attorney general says, if it is a noticed meeting, of one body. The fact that someone from another body gets up and in public comment says something, and they come before her board or speaks to another board member sits on her board, who is a member of the collegial body that she's addressing, that is not a violation of the Sunshine Law. Why? Because it is in the sunshine. It is a noticed meeting. One thing that you're allowed to do is if you want to hash things out with another board member, you can have a noticed meeting of just 2 members. This board has done that, has a finance subcommittee. It does it. I've seen other boards do that. They just notice a meeting for, member A and member B to meet and discuss about X. Agendas are not required for noticed meetings. It is a good practice to do that, but they are not required. Minutes are required. So any notice meeting has to have minutes. And they have to be transcribed at some point. They don't have to necessarily be tape recorded, but they have to be transcribed at some point as soon following the meeting as possible. And then once transcribed, the recording of it can be deleted. You can talk to CTAC staff alone. They are not part of the Sunshine structure. What they can't do is tell you how any individual member is going to vote. They cannot be used as a conduit for information. They can talk, they can raise issues that have been raised to them, but they can't tell you what the source is. They can ask you how you feel about that, which is important to them in building an agenda. There are criminal penalties for both the violation of the Sunshine Law and the Public Records Law. Finally, any questions on Sunshine Law? Yes, ma'am.
What is considered reasonable and timely notice?
5 days is, in a perfect world, 5 days is it. Because this is an independent special district, there is a there are certain reporting requirements that are a little different. I would probably label that as a special meeting as opposed to a regular meeting. The requirements are much less rigid for city and county commissions. But I would say 5 days, you could get away with 2. We've done it with 2, but we prefer 5 days is viewed as 5 business days is viewed as generally fairly reasonable. The last thing I want to mention is voting conflicts. Basically, this is another area that's very technical. If you or your boss, company you work for, is not going to enjoy a special privilege from any contract that's let, you can vote on letting a contract. There are certain situations where you are, if you don't vote, if you choose to recuse yourself, and you can't recuse yourself unless there's a real conflict, you have to list the conflict and fill out a form and file with the Secretary of State. Otherwise, you may say what your relationship is. It may be a conflict in your mind. You may want people to understand where you're coming from, but it is not viewed as a legal conflict. For example, we do a lot of contracts with the University of Florida, yet we have employees of the University of Florida on the board, different departments generally. So because it's a large structure, very different, no chance that is going to sway any particular opinion. That's a very different situation than if you're buying feed from a small local feed store. But there are some legal requirements on that. And if you ever have a question, that's something you can bring up and we can do the research on it if you know something's coming up. And that's happened from time to time. People have asked those questions.
Okay, any questions on public records, record retention, sunshine, or voting conflicts?
I have a question.
Judge.
The limitations on having Zoom meetings for a meeting like this, if you called it a special meeting, could two people meet by Zoom or does it have to be in person?
It would be in person simply because the state law doesn't allow collegial bodies like this to meet in a virtual format. Multi-county agencies generally are allowed to meet by phone. We're a single county entity. So if you meet individually and it's noticed, that's probably not a good idea. We've always called those things workshops. The
The public
problem,
has to have access.
yeah,
Lots of public who have access to Zoom. That's why I was wondering if you
Yeah.
give them their notice.
yeah, I've never had that specific question asked. We've generally had people just come into the office and sit down and talk.
Any other questions? Okay, all right, let's move on to then the first of our old business, which is the mentoring program. So we've got a recommended action is the board is asked to receive the information, and presenting this is Amy and Bonnie. Okay, all right, welcome. Welcome, Ms. Wagner.
Would you all pull the mic to you?
Yeah, if you'll just speak right into the top of the microphone, that's probably the best.
Like this?
Yeah, that's
Right?
perfect. Yep,
All right.
thank you.
Good afternoon. There we go. Thank you. I'm Dr. Amy Wagner. I'm on the evaluation team with Bonnie with the trust. And today I'm going to present our year one evaluation results from our youth mentoring program. So the presentation I'm going to give today, it's a shortened version of the presentation that's in your board packet. So some slides have been combined or eliminated. I just wanted to let you know. So we had two funding opportunities for our mentoring programs. We had a full contract, 12-month mentoring program, and then we had 6-month mini grants. For the full contract providers, they were to pair enrolled youth with a mentor, and those relationships ideally lasted at least 9 months. And then the full contract providers also provided group mentoring, and they had monthly support for mentors and monthly support for parents. For our mini grants, our mini grant providers were to provide 10 group mentoring sessions over a 6-month period and ideally engage youth for at least 3 months. So these were the agencies that we worked with. We had 6 full contract providers. You can see up on the screen, and then we had 8 mini grant providers. So this is just an overview of our participant demographics. So on the screen, you can see the youth from the mini grants, the youth from the full contracts, and our mentors from our full contracts. Of note, our youth from both contracts, or both kinds of contracts, were majority Black or African American. The majority of our mentors, I think more than half were white. And then looking at the grade, the majority of youth in our mini grants were younger. They were in elementary school. I believe 64% were in elementary school, whereas in our full contract programs, the majority, 87%, were older. They were in middle and high school, and 13% were in elementary school. And the majority of our mentors were younger. They were under 37. Okay, so to get into our performance measures, we served a total of 409 youth across both programs. We had 278 in our full contract programs and 130 in our mini grants. And for both the full contract and the mini grants, We exceeded our target for our group mentoring sessions. So we had 228 for our full grant and 122 for our mini grant, which was great. The youth in the surveys indicated that the group mentoring sessions were really impactful and a really important part of the program. So really to get into the performance measures for our full contracts, we know from the literature that when program staff meet with mentors and parents or caregivers at least once a month, it really supports the mentoring relationship. It gives a space for mentors to be able to ask questions, share concerns, kind of manage expectations they may have of the mentoring relationship. If mentors are feeling like they're not connecting with their mentees, they can check in with staff and kind of get support in that way. For parents, it also gives them a space when they're checking in regularly with staff to, again, share concerns, ask questions, learn about the goals of the mentoring program, kind of understand more of the roles of different people in the mentoring relationship. So those are both two important components of mentoring programs, and our providers did really well in those spaces. The majority of parents and mentors were able to meet with staff at least once a month. Moving down to the percentage of youth who receive an average of 2 or more contacts per month. We also know from the literature that the ideal amount of time that a youth and a mentor are meeting is 4 hours a month for at least a year. So we set that target relatively high at 80%. It was something that we felt was really important for the program. So that was an area where we can improve. We were at 31% of youth met twice a month with their mentor. And some of the reasons for that, some providers had difficulty tracking when the matched pairs met. The mentors needed to, kind of check in with the staff and let them know when they were meeting. And so sometimes the mentors weren't doing that consistently. Also, it was challenging in the beginning with the new process for providers to be putting the mentoring sessions into SAMIS. For our school-based mentoring programs, it was challenging for them to kind of maintain momentum over the summer months when the students were out of school. And then also a lack of mentors. Some of our mentors were paired with 2, 3, 4 kids. And so it was hard for them to meet twice a month with every kid that they were mentoring. So moving forward into year 2, our providers are, kind of figuring out what happened year 1 and creating better systems to track those mentoring meetings. Also as a staff, we're really working to make sure that we're checking and tracking the data regularly so we can check in and support providers when we see that the data isn't where we'd like it to be. And then also better off, we found that we feel like youth really are better off. They reported relational satisfaction.
You're on a roll and I
Member
apologize.
Pinkerton and then Judge Farrar.
Everything looks really good with the exception of that. So are y'all gonna change that or are y'all gonna figure out a way to reach that 80% level? Which is what I would prefer.
For sure. I think we're gonna keep it the same. Because we do feel like it's an important measure. And like I said, that's something that we see in the literature, something that's important for positive.
That's okay. You answered the question. You want to keep it the same. Good.
Yes.
Okay.
In addition to keeping it the same, we are working closely with those that struggle with it the most. In the areas where they showed their strength, we increased those targets. So for an example, we see that a lot of mentoring programs focus their attention on the group aspect of mentoring. And so instead of terminating a contract, we really looked at this. Where are you strongest? And yes, they still have that as a performance measure, but we increased other performance measures to try to balance that. Because many of them really struggled with recruiting or retaining. In your packet, you see that there are some mentors who were like, whoa, this is way more, than what I expected. And so there's an issue with retaining or recruiting mentors. And so we were able to look at where their strengths were.
Okay.
Judge Farrar.
I apologize. The problem with that is that part of this process with the performance measures is to see whether or not the entities that we're doing that we have had contracts with, whether they're going to work or not.
Right.
So if they're not doing what we said, it becomes incumbent upon us to, perhaps call those people to get people that we want to get, that will do the things, because the one-on-one is important.
You are correct. There was one that we had to eliminate the contract for that reason.
Okay.
So if we kept the contract, it is because we truly were able to work with them to make those, necessary changes so that they could, have a positive impact as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Judge?
What
And
is
then
the- what
Dr.
is-
Hart?
Thank you. What is the single asterisk and the double asterisk mean?
Oh, yes.
Actually, I would look at the bottom, but I didn't see it. I looked all over.
For sure.
I looked too.
Those were in my notes. So for the 31%, that was indicating that that number was 68 out of 220 youth. So in the report, we talk about how out of the 279 total enrolled, we had 232 who were matched, who had a mentor that they could be matched with. The other ones just participated in group mentoring, if they weren't able to be matched. So out of the 232, we had consistent data for 220, and we had 68 out of 220 youth, so that was 31%. So that's how I got the 31%. Those are the numbers.
And what about the double asterisk?
And the double, that is the number of youth. So in order to be matched for 9 months, you had to have, the contract, well, the fiscal year was for 12 months. You had to have been matched before January of 2024 to have been matched for 9 months at the end of the fiscal year. So we had 82 youth who were matched before January of 2024. And of those, 74% remained in those relationships for the full 9 months. So that's how we got to the 90%.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
As we move forward, when you present this, if you would either take the asterisks out or
Yes.
tell us what they
Tell you what
reference.
they are.
I think that would be awesome.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Apologize.
That's okay.
Dr. Hart?
Yeah, I noticed in the intro that there were 20% of youth who say they don't have anyone to talk to when they have a problem. What evidence do we have that these children that participated were those children?
That's a really good question.
I am sorry. Can you, come up to the mic?
That data was from our listening project where we surveyed youth. We don't know whether the youth that enrolled in mentoring were those same youth, but that was one of the things that youth said that we asked a question on the enrollment form, why did you enroll in this program? And some of the reasons why and some of the benefits that they wrote about in their youth outcome survey was being able to socialize and feel like they belong. So I feel like that was the problem, and how we learned about it was from the listening project. And I feel like we were able to address it in part through this program investment.
Okay. All right, Dr. Wagner, you want to keep going?
Sure. So our impact data, we had 93% of youth who reported relational satisfaction and closeness with their mentor. And then we found overall youth were doing well or making gains in social emotional skills. They avoided, most avoided involvement with the juvenile justice system, and they were doing well or making gains in school performance. We also, I think, had some really good gains that were highlighted in our qualitative data, which I will get to later. So performance measures for our mini grants. Our mini grant providers did really well. They exceeded all of their targets. Overall, looking at the measures, youth participated, they were engaged, they enjoyed the program, they felt comfortable in group sessions and learned new things. In one program, they learned how to garden, and that's the picture that's that's the picture there. So overall, youth and mini grant programs had a good experience. So as I said, I think youth voices are important in looking at our program impact. On our post surveys for both the full contract and mini grant program, there was an opportunity for them to write how the program impacted them. The pink we saw trend in analyzing the data, I saw that themes were consistent actually across both of the programs. And so if you look at our themes up here, the pink are the full contract, the orange are the mini contract. Those are responses from the full contract survey responses and the mini grant survey responses. And so you can see those, but something that really stuck out to me as I was analyzing the data, was the prevalence of the camaraderie, responses. Youth really, they felt like they were in a safe space. They felt like they were able to talk. They felt like they really bonded with each other, that they were able to build relationships. They met other people who were kind of going through similar things, and they were able to kind of walk together through some of the challenges that they were having. This sub-theme was social skills. So youth learning how to build relationships, make friends, network. So the social aspect of the mentoring programs, I think, were really important. And then these were quotations from our end of year reflections that our providers completed. Again, really highlighting the camaraderie, the safe space. We had one provider said, we were able to build a shell of comfort and camaraderie. And so again, providers also going with that theme that it was just a really important place for youth to be able to come together. And then also another provider, she spoke about taking students to Alabama where they got to take a tour of HBCUs. And that just seemed like a really cool experience also to share. So just to wrap up, key successes again, the mentor and parent care and the mentor and parent support provided by staff. Also youth satisfaction with the mentoring relationships. Again, the pink is the full grant and the orange also includes the mini grants. The camaraderie built among the youth, and then the areas for improvement. We do want to increase the frequency of the one-to-one meetings, as we talked about before, support mentor recruitment, because the more mentors we have, the more kids we can serve, and then ongoing support with SAMIS.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to the public and members, any comments or questions that you have? Dr. Wagner, go ahead. Have a chance.
Just one on the one-on-one mentoring. I remember talking about this at the beginning, and I understand the research and the 4 hours a month. But where did we land on length of time for an adequate one-on-one mentoring session?
Yeah, so different providers had different requirements for what counted as a one-on-one contact, but I think generally they lasted at least 30 minutes.
I mean, lunch for school-based mentoring is 37 minutes or whatever it is.
Right.
Per session, 30 minutes per session.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Just, I would like to see us focus more on increasing the one-to-one before we increase the number of kids. I think if we're going to follow best practices, the priority should be to serve well the children we're already serving before we say, okay, let's increase the number that we're serving.
And more than once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do need to get towards meeting those more national standards, and there are national standards.
Okay, great comments. All right, anyone else? All right, let's open up to the public. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this item? There's no action. It's just receiving the report. If so, if you'll come up, go ahead and introduce yourself, and you'll have up to 3 minutes. Certainly don't have to take it all, but we'd love to hear from you.
No, thank you. Jeff Parker from IGB Education. First of all, I want to thank the staff of the trust for what they do and all the hard work that they do to compile everything and to maintain what we do. We are a recipient of the grant. One thing I will say is that the one-on-one, I definitely agree with the one-on-one focus for the grant. However, I will push back and say, we're totally into doing one-on-one. We understand what the data says wholeheartedly and completely agree with it. However, there must be some type of work, a relationship where we work together with the board, with the staff to be able to recruit one-on-one mentors. My staff personally sent out hundreds of emails to recruit one-on-one mentors. We go to county events, city events, hit everybody. If we're going to do this and we're truly going to make a difference, then we've got to figure out a way to where we're more effective in recruiting one-on-one mentors. I think my organization specifically, and then the other recipients of the grant, I think we're all in a place that we can help and do the one-on-one, but without the people, we simply can't do it.
Yeah.
So that's my one ask, is that if we're going to push, and I totally agree it's necessary, because that is the most effective change that you have, we have to figure out another strategy to be able to recruit one-on-one mentors.
Good comments. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Good. Anyone else? Good comments. Come on up.
My name is David Singleton. I'm the program director for Made for More. I just want to second what he said as well. We do due diligence and recruit mentors. It's really hard to find them. And then when we get people in, it's even harder to retain quality people. So we could get 20, 25 mentors. We could get 50 or 60 mentors, but the likelihood of those guys following up and being everything as a role model they should be is really low. So it is very, very difficult. Hundreds of emails as well, many calls. It's really difficult to recruit mentors. So that's just that side of it. I would love to talk to an organization, get in contact with organizations who has done that well, so that we can get more information on how to do that well. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, members, anything else on this topic? I think you've heard our comments. Obviously, mentors is a huge, maybe there's an opportunity with high school mentors helping the younger kids, but I think that's an area. My comments on this presentation is I would hope that after a year that we can figure out the ones that are really doing it well. And the ones that aren't, then we need to either give more resources to the ones that are, or figure out how we can bring along more organizations to do it really well. Ms. Guiner, did you have something to comment? Member Certain.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to possibly suggest getting college age mentors. I had kids to tell me they may would like to mentor, but they need the money. So some of these organizations that we're funding may need to factor in paying stipends to, especially the college age kids. They may not, there's they're doing good things, but they just may not have the capacity to work for free, to pour into someone else for free. And that's just the reality of it. I've had several students to tell me that over the years is they'd like to mentor, but their free time, they gotta work.
Yeah, University of Florida and Santa Fe are two opportunities.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the feedback. We don't disagree with you. Part of our internal discussion as this was playing out over the year, do we pull contracts? Because we were seeing that they were all struggling for the most part. And I didn't feel that we should do that because children were being helped. They were meeting with kids. So that was why we kind of flipped it and said, we're not going to take out the one-on-one mentoring, but let's ramp up the group mentoring because they are doing that well. This is a 2-year grant for the full contracts. So we'll see. We're going into the second year. We will come back with a recommendation at the end of this year to you. Do we continue with the mentoring programs? If so, what kinds of changes we'd like to see, what we think will work. Jeff is absolutely right, as is, I'm sorry, young man, David, I didn't catch your name. We're trying to do the convenings to bring these groups together so that they can share best practices. Some will tell you, board member Certain, that college students, you get them for one semester, you don't get them for the next. So it appears to be trial and error for all of them as to what will work. But we're going to continue. Did you want to say something? Am I missing something, Christy?
Not missing anything, just informing you that we do have one provider that does pay their mentors, and they have good one-to-one numbers. And so it is something that we are aware of, that we intend to, as Executive Director Kiner, I couldn't get that out, just mentioned, when we come back to you after this year's over, those are the things that it's a pilot project for 2 years. And so we have to look at what went well, what didn't. And that is one of the areas, as Member Certain stated.
One quick thing.
Yeah,
Have y'all talked to in the service organizations like Rotary or Elks, those types? Granted, they're probably older.
Pastor Alliance.
And I don't know, how that fits in, with the matching.
To recruit the
Yes.
mentors. So when we met, whenever it was earlier this fall, we committed to the programs that we're going to do our part to help recruit mentors for this upcoming year. So we are planning to do some of that.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the Head Start Summer Bridge 2024 program overview. The requested action is to ask the board to receive this overview, and Madam Director, who's giving it?
Bonnie, which one?
that Bonnie?
Summer Bridge. Bonnie and Mia? Is Mia-
Bonnie, is that one you?
Mia's going first? Okay. Mia is not in person with us. She is out of town, but she is online.
Hello, everybody. So as Joe said, we're doing the presentation on Head Start Summer Bridge Year 2 evaluation results. And so while Bonnie gets set up and the presentation is posted, I'll start on at least the first slide. The community partner for the Summer Bridge program is Episcopal Children's Services. And I believe if they're not in the room yet, they probably will be by the end of the meeting. Family enrollment started in April and the Summer Bridge program began on June 5th for a total of 8 weeks. 5 of our early learning centers supported 110 children ages 3 to 5, and CTAC invested $183,352. Some of the program additions include hiring a program manager, offering extended day to families, adding to the education plan, and considering family vacations, and of course, starting enrollment earlier in the summer, earlier than the summer before. So this gives a graphic of the education plan that Episcopal created based on the gains and data from the Summer Bridge 2023. They added this education plan for the Summer Bridge for Summer Bridge 2024. And Bonnie's going to talk a little bit more about those learning gains shortly. The plan included what you see there, the literacy rich environment, the Hatch Ignite, ALS PALS social and emotional curriculum, Cade Museum hands-on STEM activities, and of course, at-home learning. The at-home learning built upon the literacy rich environment. It continued learning outside of the classroom, and it included families in the child's learning experience. So when I had the opportunity to do site visits, centers reported the teachers and the scholars enjoyed the bi-weekly classroom kits. They loved it so much that they want to make sure that the next Summer Bridge that we do, they have the funds to be able to create even more of those for the students. And I'll turn it over to Bonnie for the next slide.
There are 11 Head Start locations in Alachua County, 5 of which you're getting a new presentation to reflect. So there was a longer presentation in the packet, much like Amy explained. So this is the abridged version for brevity of tonight's presentation. So on the slide that you see right now, and I'll be going through the slides that are in front of you. So there's 11 Head Start locations in Alachua County, 5 of which served as Summer Bridge locations in the summer of 2024. These are represented by the dark blue circles, dots on the map, and the names of the center are on the right side of the slide, along with the children served. The Head Start Summer Bridge program, as Mia shared, served a total of 110 children in summer 2024, which is almost twice as many children as the 56 children that we served in summers 2023. So they nearly doubled their numbers from year 1 to year 2. On our next slide, goes over how much programming was received by children and offered by the programs. All centers were to offer 35 days of programming, and we established a target that children would attend 75% of or more of the days that they anticipated attending. Most parents planned for their child to attend the whole 35 days offered, and relative to this anticipated attendance, on average, children only attended 70% of expected days. So this fell 5% below the target. Some of the things that affected this was not all providers offered the full 35 days. There were also some kids who withdrew very early in the program for a variety of reasons, such as moving away, health reasons, transportation, and some just stopped showing up, so we weren't able to know why. Ultimately, though, children attend an average of 24 days, and with 75% of children attending 20 or more days. And what's exciting is that we are able to see summer learning gains for the summer bridge children that outpace the non-participants. We were able to see this through the Teaching Strategies Gold Assessment that's administered in all Head Start locations. The Teaching Strategies Gold is an ongoing observational tool that assesses children birth to kindergarten. The domains assessed are shown on the slide. They're social, emotional, physical, language, cognitive literacy, and math. Each domain ranges from a minimum of 200 to a maximum of 800, covering the continuum of birth to kindergarten. The full range isn't displayed on this slide because our kids served in this cohort were 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So we didn't need to show the full range for the data points that we showed. On the slide, we show the average scores in each domain for the Alachua County Head Start children in both spring 2024 and then again in fall 2024, with the purple representing our Head Start Summer Bridge children versus those that were not in Summer Bridge in gray. So as you can see, the bridge children, Summer Bridge children experience more gains in their average skill scores across all 6 domains, and then more gains than the non-bridge children in 5 of the 6 domains. So the growth in social emotional skills and language between the Summer Bridge and the comparison group was statistically significant and most substantial in compared to the non-bridge children. So there was a definitely with the comparison group being able to see Summer Bridge children outpace the non-participants that would be demographically similar. On our next slide, we also had additional Hatch Ignite results. Hatch Ignite is an adaptive digital learning tool that the Summer Bridge children were able to receive access to throughout the summer that non-Summer Bridge children did not receive. This tool helps children accelerate their learning and development and in certain domains, particularly with an emphasis on literacy, math, and social emotional. And on this slide, we present the growth in literacy, math, and social emotional skills between May and July, so just 2 short months for the children enrolled in the program. Overall, we see average gains in each domain, and again, with a large percent of children increasing their scores within just the 2-month time frame. On our next slide, as we always like to do, we conduct a survey to gain parents' perspective on program quality, its benefits and outcomes. We had 96 parents complete the survey, which represents an 87% completion rate. Parents not only rate that their child enjoyed the program, but that the program provided lots of quality educational experience, but they felt the teachers truly cared. It helped keep their child's routine consistent, and their children were learning more because of the program. When asked what they or their child liked best about the program, parents and children appreciated the teachers, friends in the classroom, learning, and the weekly take-home activities, which was included as an addition this summer. On our next slide, we also asked on the survey, if this program didn't exist, would you have enrolled your child in a quality summer program? And we see that 75% of the parents said no, they wouldn't have. And they listed the reasons why they wouldn't have on this slide, from most prevalent to least. Without this investment, many of the children would have not been enrolled in formal care in the years leading up to their kindergarten entry, which we know supports their readiness in school. So on this last slide, before I turn it back over to Mia, I end with my performance measure slide. Summer Bridge surpassed 6 of their 8 performance measures and missed 2 by a small margin. However, beyond these performance measures, the program just demonstrated significant learning gains via the gold and the hatch results, which we had piloted in the first 2 years, and hopefully we can continue to do so and incorporate into additional performance measures. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mia.
So moving forward, we're keeping all of the additions from what we've learned and what we implemented for Summer Bridge 2024, which included the program manager position. All of our centers loved that they had a dedicated person to this program that saw them weekly, that made, they could talk to anytime they wanted to. We'll be focusing on ways to expand the program center and enrollment numbers. Episcopal is looking at including the centers that they own as possible summer bridge sites. And then, of course, similar to how we do summer programming for BLI, we're also creating an onboarding application for centers and setting some minimal criteria for centers to participate. And finally, we're aiming for family enrollment to start in February, which to me is a huge accomplishment. Each year, we're able to get that enrollment month up. And we feel like we're on target to be ready for families to start deciding what summer program they want to do for their little one starting in February. And that ends our presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Bonnie. All right, members, any questions or comments? Member Certain.
Thank you, Chair Cornell. So I got this, and I'm sorry, my voice is a little bit weak. I see on the back of the handout that Christy brought to us that there were 110 children enrolled.
Yeah.
But on that little bar graph, the numbers didn't line up. And so it seemed like they were like, I'm just trying to figure out how we had, were those just the only ones that were assessed, or those were the only ones that had the hatch program? Or, I mean, help me.
I can help with that a little bit, Bonnie. We did have a center that, of course, survey data is one of those things, and gathering data with Episcopal. So we had a center that ended up closing before they could get that information. And of course, they closed and then they reopened their site, but that takes a while for them to be able to do all the things that are needed for licensure, along with doing some other things that they needed to do. So as a result of that, the kids were displaced to other centers or other places, or they didn't go to a Head Start. So for Episcopal to gather some of that data was increasingly difficult. And it's not something that we were hoping would happen, but it did happen. So that kind of impacted the numbers of us being able to track those specific kids. And it was one of our larger summer bridge programs.
So it seems that there were only, for the on page 131 of our agenda packet, Mia, it said summer bridge participants, the blue bar is 27. And Head Start participants not in summer bridge was 76. And I was just trying to figure out, and we're saying that the gains outpace each other. Just, it doesn't seem like there's a real good
Yeah, and
apples to apples comparison.
about half of the kids went to kindergarten. So there's 110 kids, about half of them went to kindergarten, so they didn't get that second assessment. And then of the 55, there was one center that closed. So there was 27 kids that were there in spring and again in fall in the same Head Start location. So there was some drop off due to kindergarten entry, which is good. And then there was some drop off due to, there were a few kids that left the program. And then there was some drop off due to the center closing.
Oh, okay. So perhaps maybe if we had looked at just the ones who had stayed, like.
The 27 are the ones that were there at both time points. And then the comparison group is the light blue dots, if you remember the math one. The kids that were in there 2 time points.
Okay. I guess I get it.
Okay, anyone, Dr. Hart?
Quick one. Bonnie, for the half of the kids who wound up going to kindergarten, do we have any numbers suggesting that they were ready for kindergarten?
I would love to be able to start to collect that data in the years moving forward to see where they landed, but we don't
So
have.
could it be that our acting school board could help us with that? Because I know that's really hard data to get, but for us to
Be able to
invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in these programs, we need to know whether they're getting kids ready for school.
I've been waiting for that request.
Okay, good comment, good request. Okay, is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this item, or is Episcopal here? Would they like to speak? Anyone? Going once? Going twice? All right, any further comments from the board before I make mine? All right, so here are my comments. 1,825 days. 1,825 days. That's the number of days in the first 5 years of life. This is really why we have this trust, in my opinion. If the data is correct, that 90% of that brain and those wiring is done in those first 5 years. Days and weeks matters. 20 days is 1% of that brain. We lose 200 days, the best they can be is a B+ for their life. And so I think this program, this type of programming is where, these investments that we're making are critical. And if we can begin to track of the 27, were they ready? Did they get ready? Are they more ready than they would have been? We will have a Children's Trust, long past the time that we're all gone. So 1,825 days, 20 days is 1%. So thank you, Mia. Thank you, Bonnie, for your presentation and for this work. Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is the Live Local Act exemption resolution. And I believe this one is Bob. Okay.
Mr. Chair, appears that the summation was essentially that that there is current housing available in the specified range, and that is what they're basing the recommendation not to go forward. So I would move staff recommendation to.
Do we have a staff recommendation? Second?
Sorry, I totally missed that. We're opting out or not?
I was on the head start thing, sorry.
Okay,
I'm confused.
the live local exemption is that it's an opportunity, as I understand it, for somebody who's developing a piece of property that they can ask for this exemption. If there's affordable, if they're offering affordable housing, I think it's up to what, 120%. But we have the ability to opt out if, we can just opt out free and clear, or if there's a reason for it. And the reason that I don't have a problem with this is because there's available housing in Alachua County for people up to 120.
So the motion is to adopt the resolution and opt out of the Live Local.
Correct.
So that.
Second, Pat.
So that's a second. So just for the members, the county will be adopting the same one tomorrow. We do it every year. The statute says you have to do it every 2 years. The Library Governing Board is planning to opt out as well on Thursday or whenever we meet next. And so
The
this is.
city is as well.
Yeah, this is consistent with both the county's direction and the library's direction. Any comments to the motion? Any public comments to the motion? Let's bring it back to the board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Member Pincus. All right, next up is the new business, which is item 17, the SAMUS update. And the recommended action is for the board is asked to receive this update. And I have Ms. Tyson.
Demetrica?
Is that correct? Yep. Okay.
Notice how you didn't want to say my first name.
Say that again.
I am Demetrica Tyson, the Data Support Coordinator for Children's Trust.
You sure are. Welcome.
I will be covering the introduction, the overview. Then I will turn it over to Bonnie, who will discuss evaluation, and Scott, who will discuss fiscal. So before we think about where we are now, let's think about where we started. So our journey started with CTAC. We were doing spreadsheets. They contain program information, attendance, our fiscal invoices, all those things were on spreadsheets. And we maintain most of these things on our V drive. We were productive. Our RFPs were PDFs with forms that you went to our website, you did a couple of things, you answered some questions. And then we had some things on our website as well. Our contracts were Adobe. We also communicated via email. We were efficient, however, it took us a few steps to get to where we needed to be. In January of 2022, the board, most of you are still here, authorized the formation of the Data Technical Advisory Committee. It was led by my colleague Bonnie. They met for 6 months, and then the board approved
In September of 2026, September 26th of 2022, a mouthful, the board approved the DTAP amount. Amount, you can go to the next one. The board approved the DTAP agreement. We executed our contract with WebAuthor in April of 2023. And then we started our pilot testing and onboarding August through January of 2024. So here we are, December, a little bit more than a year, so we've come a long ways. Our intentional timeline allowed us to hear from you, the board, the community, and the team at WebAuthor, as well as other CSCs. Being intentional benefits the community as TTAC becomes more efficient, transparent, and even better stewards over tax dollars. Stay right there. So our SAMIS benefits. For the providers, we've held small group pilot testing. Each initiative, and when I say initiative, we mean like enrichment, mentoring. Each initiative, we trained everybody together. We talked about how data and physical would be handled for each of those initiatives, covered invoicing for all of them. And during those training sessions, that allowed us to receive feedback from the providers themselves. They talked about what worked, what didn't work, and they made sure they told us what didn't work, what they didn't like, and what they thought might be a little difficult. So that gave us an opportunity to hear from them and decide what we wanted to maybe do differently. We created how-to guides for each of the initiatives that included screenshots and videos. We recognize everybody learns differently. And then we would always send an update email with a recap to everyone involved to make sure that everybody received the same information and had it to refer back to. We conducted in-person and virtual training. And then we also did that for support. We had office hours, check-ins. To date, we've held about 25 large group trainings. We don't track the individual trainings as we feel like we're here to help. So we don't need to keep track of how many we did. We don't cap how many times you can ask us for help or reach out to us. We have a dedicated SAMIS email address that several of us receive so that if anybody needs help, one of us sees it, we reach out and we do our best to assist. We also have a landing page on our CTAC website where we have all of our how-to guides and trainings. As trust staff, we receive regular internal trainings. If we're deciding to do something different, we discuss it, we train on it, and we make sure that all of our staff know how to use it. We also have all received confidentiality training from Bob. And we also meet regularly with other CSCs throughout the state. We have a monthly check-in with our user group. So for our applications, we started out with fiscal. That's the most important. Everybody wanted to make sure they can invoice. So we started out with fiscal. Then we moved on to delivery, and that's where all the data is. We then moved to campaigns. These were the ones that, this is one of my favorites because I like to communicate. Campaigns gives us, it's kind of like constant contact. We can see if you received it. We can see if you clicked on it. We can see if you got the information. So it's important to make sure that everybody, again, receives the information because we don't want to leave anybody out. Then we did grants and applications. So we did 2 RFPs this year using SAMIS. And then we moved on to our contracts module where we have pretty much done most of our contracts this year through it. And we also have a Flex Forms module, and I'm not sure why it has a name Flex Forms, but that's where our surveys and assessments are mostly in. Bonnie manages that and she'll speak more to that. It was through the surveys and assessments that we started working on our training that we're doing this year. So the latest module that we started using is LMS, and that's our learning management system. And we have a public training link that all the providers have access to and all their staff can utilize. So this year, for our training, just to talk about it briefly, we're gonna have Child Advocacy Center do our human trafficking. DCF, I'm working with John on our child abuse and reporting. We are also excited about, because during the surveys, a lot of our providers asked for additional information in regards to trauma. They didn't want to just learn about it. They wanted to know how to handle it, what to do. They wanted some tools and tricks. So we reached out to Connie Pierre Antone, and I hope I'm not messing up her name, who has a host of credentials. She's provided trainings for the St. Johns County School Board, and she works with the Alachua County School Board as well. So she will be doing a trauma series. The first one, the effects of trauma on brain development, from trauma-informed to trauma-transformed organizations, supporting emotional needs during childhood development, managing dysregulated emotions and behavior, not what to do, but how to be, and understanding hyperarousal and dysregulation. All of those are on our LMS training site, and I'll make sure you guys have the link so that you'll be able to see what the descriptions for each of those trainings. Now you can go to the next one. Also, one of the things that I absolutely love about SAMUS, and when I train, this is where I start. Each provider gets to see their program at a glance. All their documents, their fiscal, their reimbursements, everything's all in one place. So they can start here, then they can move on to others. It tells them who their contract manager is, who their budget specialist is, and gives them all kinds of information, including any files or documents that have been added, as well as they can see the due dates for their surveys and assessments, all on their dashboard. Everything is labeled by fiscal year, and the providers only see their programs, obviously, for PII. We do not receive anybody's information any child's information unless they have filled out a consent form. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie, who's going to share evaluation, and then I'll come back up.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So as Demetrika mentioned, acquiring the data system, SAMUS, was identified as the next step in our data collection management policy. Through SAMUS, we're able to keep the information secure. Everybody has to log in, multi-factor, have a strong password, all of that, so everybody can feel at ease that their information is secured. When users log in, they for the first time, they see our policy, and they acknowledge that they will abide by the policy and the steps in there. So that's an extra thing to put our mind at ease, that the system will help us automate those processes and be able to track who's in there, that there's security features that are the latest and greatest in the industry. But as an evaluator, I'm just absolutely thrilled to have SAMUS as a system. We're able to maximize our data analysis capabilities, look at our cumulative participation over programs across time. We can see that little Johnny went to program A, B, and C. We can see that they participated year over year. Their assessments and survey data is year after year. And we're also able to improve our data quality by completeness and accuracy, by having advanced validation and verification processes to prevent errors and incomplete information. We can have little info bubbles pop up to provide guidance on how to enter information and answer questions. So it also gives us the advantage of shared measurement, tracking, collaboration. When they go in, they see a dashboard, they see what they have to do, they see how many surveys they've completed, they see how many surveys they need to complete, what the due dates are. We can automate surveys to send out on a certain day, or to do notifications and reminders. So the system allows us to provide some efficiencies rather than filling out hard copy surveys would. So that's another huge benefit of SAMUS. So, and then being able to just have a process where we can all log in and see where we all are together. I hope that as we move forward, we get more advanced in our reporting and sharing of the data, and maximizing our analytic capabilities through there. So that, from an evaluation perspective, I'm thrilled to have SAMUS and be able to track the data long term. And I think I'm turning it over to Scott.
Scott.
Thank you, Bonnie. Just a couple of points around SAMUS for those of us that tend to be data geeks like me. It is really data rich, which helps to guide how well we support our providers and vice versa, have what I characterize as a shared accountability around all things fiscal. So some essential highlights is everything is consolidated into a single location. We get an invoice along with all the backup documentation that's required, move away from Google Docs. And I have had some feedback that in of itself has been a benefit for providers, certainly is for our team. Also our ability to monitor our performance as well as the provider's performance. And so the graphic that you see next to this one is a snapshot. It is, I will say, my dashboard. I look at this every day. We can see clearly where any provider or CTAC is in the process for either submitting or reimbursement back. And it has a timestamp for just about every action. So it allows us to measure and monitor both internally where we are in our queue once a provider submits an invoice, and externally how we can help the providers move along in their invoicing to keep everybody current from month to month. This is, I was excited, realized late that the contract module that we just implemented is a nice tie-in to the back end of that, if you will, from a budget process perspective. So it helps our team get a much closer, earlier look at the contract process as it unfolds. And again, all of that done through CMS, which allows us to measure and monitor those as they move through the process. Next slide, please. Another opportunity that we are excited about is leveraging the learning management system, where we can provide standard training for how you interface from a fiscal perspective with CMS, so that it's kind of like a self-help. You go directly there as a place to start once you get started, and where there's more incremental support that you need from our team. Our budget specialists are prepared to provide that. Knowing the contract for the provider, and can help ease the process for implementation for, in particular, our newer providers. And then a little bit of foreshadowing, improving our business analytics. So SAMUS is one component of the work that the finance team does. Once we get an invoice approved through SAMUS, it moves to New World, which is how we actually reimburse our providers. And there's a nice opportunity to leverage data out of both. That gives us a more granular look at overall performance. And I think get to some of the data points this board is interested in over the short term. And these last two, the last one actually in particular, several of these I should say, we discussed at our last finance committee meeting as part of the work plan for the finance team in fiscal year 25. So looking forward to, again, leveraging what is clear horsepower from CMS as a very useful tool for us and for providers. Back to you, Demetrika.
We did ask for a few testimonials, and fortunately, we could have put way more in your packet.
Okay, we just had a mic fall. No problem. Everything was okay.
Oh, I was gonna say, that was not me. You looked really.
Let the record reflect, it was not Miss Certain. It was not Miss.
It's not.
Okay.
Mr. Rollins, who is very vocal, he actually wrote a letter when I asked him for a few lines, and we'll make sure that you guys can actually read it. But he did comment on how he has been very appreciative of the process improvement that has occurred, and as a provider, when things are asked for, we actually do hear them. And then the last slide, as our thank you and wrap up, what's on the horizon? Continued process improvement and efficiency. As my colleagues and I have mentioned, we will continue to look at what we're doing. We will continue to work to ensure transparency and the community's investment and benefit, a key element that reassures the provider and the community about the fairness and accountability of all of our processes. The provider benefits when they can look at their program. They can look at their spending per year. They can look at where they're allocated. They can decide if they need to do something different next time. Efficiency benefits the provider by providing them with capacity building and having their program data in one place with reminders and information at their fingertips. The providers can access reports that will benefit them during their internal and external auditing. Internally as staff, we benefit by having everything in one place, which increases our productivity and allows us to fix things when things pop up. We can also benefit through our own internal and external auditing. So we thank you, and we were asked to be short, and hopefully I did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's give this a round. Good call, Judge. Members, any comments or questions for staff? Member Shorten and then Dr. Hart.
So I saw that from SAMUS, you said it integrates with New World, or we write checks from New World. Is that the county system still? Are we going to be sunsetting that and putting all of our financials into SAMUS?
Yeah, thank you, Member Certain. That's a good clarification. It is not a sunsetting of New World. So I'll do a little technical speak around business analytics. So think of two large databases, SAMUS and New World. This is putting something on top of that that integrates both data repositories and gives us some consolidated reporting between the two.
I was wondering if we were sunsetting or the
So-
trust coming out of New World, because I recall speaking with Tommy about them
The
doing.
county had told us that they were going to be
Right.
sunsetting one version of New World, and they had put us on notice that we needed to begin to prepare to shift over, but apparently they are not going to be doing that now. So as long as they have the system, I think we're planning to stay unless Scott comes to me and says, we're gonna do something different, but
Well,
they've
no, I was-
changed direction.
Okay, I was
Yes.
thinking, I recall, because I
They
had that
did.
long conversation with Tommy,
Yeah.
when I was chair. It's been like over a year, but
Yes.
that's why I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're gonna be transitioning. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hart?
Yes, I had a little trouble hearing what Bonnie was saying at the microphone. Is not, Bonnie speaks quietly, but that microphone isn't the greatest, not picking up what you were saying. So let me make sure I understood what you said about little Johnny. Is there actually a way for us to figure out how many unduplicated children we're serving with our dollars? Because I thought I heard you say they had to sign a consent in order for individualized data to be obtained.
Some of the programs enter in individualized data in the system. Some of the programs do not. So we would know of the programs that we received in individualized data, the unduplicated count. But there are some programs, for example, like our enrichment providers, that they go into a location and they don't have the opportunity to collect that consent. So everybody who's in SAMUS, we need a consent form. That's part of our data collection and management policy. So we kind of have to combine the aggregate with the individualized numbers.
Okay, anyone else? Member Chance?
So I've enjoyed hearing anecdotally from providers that invoices are being paid quicker, and probably never feels quick enough when you're trying to meet payroll, and I understand that. And I know you can track that better with this system. Can you also track or maybe set some performance indicators on speed of contracting? Having go on contracts?
Well, I will say briefly, yes, that is certainly possible, but beyond that, I'll ask Christy if she wants to respond.
Yes, we can. We can track when it is being built in the system. We can track when it goes through internal review. I know how long Bonnie had it before it came to me. I know how long the agency has had it before it goes to their second signer. So we absolutely can track and generate reports for the entire contracting piece.
That'd be exciting to measure. Thank you.
Okay, what else? Dr. Patton?
Just wanted to say how impressive is the different programs that you've selected, because when you look at a young student's mind, little, all the way on up, we in education tend to use that left side of our brain the most, really, which is that logic, analyzing that. But the other side is really that whole creative side and the emotional side and all of that, the artistic side. So so often in education, you concentrate on that one side, but you've selected so many programs that are really using both sides of the brain. So it was actually at UF years ago, they had a cool little brain that looks like it's on steroids on one side, but the point of it is to why half is not enough, and to use their whole brain as they're going. So many, when I spent a while looking up these before today's meeting, I was just so impressed, because they're not just that look at academic side, but that's what develops a kid, is that both sides of the brain. So just want to say, from outside looking at it all, did a good job of selecting programs that do both of that.
Thank you, Dr. Patton. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? All right, is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak to this item? Okay, see none, let's bring it back. My only comment, staff, Marcia, team, is hallelujah. I mean, wow. For a member that helped stand up this special taxing district, to see and that we've been working on this since January of 22.
Since before the vote.
And since before, yeah, and just even before January of 22, before we even got to SAMUS, to see where we are and to see now what you all will be able to do to enhance service delivery and enhance the providers. Really, really pleased. And I want to give you another round of applause. So let's do that. Okay, so we are now getting to the end here. So we've got general public comment. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to give us some feedback? I see one of our partners there. I saw you just came in. If you could introduce yourself, you've got 3 minutes.
So I'm Martha Cox. I'm from Episcopal Children's Services, and I had car trouble on the way here, so I'd like a little award for trying the hardest to get here, but still managed to be late. But I heard the presentation online. But what I wanted to do is to, on behalf of all of the kids that we serve, is to thank all of you for believing in us, for supporting us, and working through the bumps that we find. But this is a model that we are looking at because we do this work in 11 other counties. And it's tremendous what the learning gains are. And we think that this has merit actually looking at it nationally if we can get the Office of Head Start on board with this. But, when we look at the learning gains, they are so huge. And, the comment was made about just, how much 20 days represents of a child's life. And it's so true. So I just wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to thank all of you, and I'm glad I made it before 5:45 or 6:45.
Thank you.
whatever.
Thank you for your comments. And I will say that I really like the bullet that consider adding ECS owned centers in the presentation. I noticed that, and I appreciate you powering through to get here. So thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, anyone else? Come on up, Christy.
Hi there, I'm Christy Arrington, Executive Director of Girls Place. I promised Scott and Max that I would publicly appreciate them. They worked really hard to help us get through the last fiscal year. Their communication was incredible. I agree that Samus makes that easier. As soon as Scott cleared an invoice, I was able to throw another one in there. We have talked about, could you have something in draft form? So we've been throwing that around because we get, like, the contract period is slowed down a little, or not, I shouldn't say slow down, it's bad. So getting contracts into Samus and us getting signed and answering our questions is taking a little bit longer. And so we haven't submitted an October request yet. But we have the data and we have the information. And so with Samus, if there was a draft option, then I could have lots of things sitting on Scott's desk waiting for him. But I am super grateful. Scott even picked up the phone, called me. Max does the same, just to help move the process along much quicker. So I'm grateful for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Anyone else?
I just was gonna let you know, I know there was a little bit of a hiccup with the literacy project here, so spent a while and spoke with Phil Poker over at the Lassinger Center. So we've got that moving along. Had a great talk with you also. Thank you for listening. But very happy that because that's been kind of sitting on our part for, I guess, since September, but it'll move.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pat. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's David Singleton again from Made for More. I just want to tell y'all a quick story about one of the young men in our group. He went to Atlanta with us, which would not be possible without you guys. And he got an altercation with another young man and was got in a fist fight. One of our mentors took him to the side, had a conversation with him, talked to him about forgiveness, right? I talked to the young man afterwards. He said, in my head, I said, that's not going to work. He's going to think I'm soft. It's going to end up being a problem later. But I decided to do it. And because he decided to do that, those guys became friends later on, right? That's a shift in the mindset that's going to impact the rest of his life. And that's the work you guys are doing. I just want to say thank you.
Great story. Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Going once, going twice. All right, let's move it to board member comments. Lee, you have anything?
I hope y'all have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and because y'all deserve it. And thank y'all very much for coming, and to the board members, thank y'all for everything you do, because this is really a great board.
Thank you, Lee. Dr. Hart, anything?
Nothing to add, but I agree. It's really a great board.
Dr. Labarta?
Ditto. And we'll miss her.
Judge?
We're gonna
I'd just
miss
like-
Denise.
You too.
Yep.
Thank you all.
And I'll just say trauma-informed care matters.
Thank you.
Responsive.
Our response.
Yeah, I wrote it down to make sure I bring that up to
Thank you.
make sure I say trauma responsive is key to everything, so.
Well, I mean, I was thrilled.
In addition to my other stuff that's key to me, you know.
What she said, what Demetra said about the SAMUS and this trauma response, trauma responsive, I thought that was terrific. You saw me, I don't know if you saw me light up. We're just very happy.
Don't miss you.
We should take the training, right?
Dr. Patton, any closing comments?
I just want to say, thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you for that great I think I used up almost an hour of your time the other day. And, I know your better half very well, Tina. because
Well,
she's
then
like,
you know the
"Guess
important
who
member of our
it
family.
is?" Yeah. So anyway, but thank you for being so welcoming. This is just a real honor and privilege to be here.
Well, Dr. Patton, I know I speak for many when I tell you how excited we were to learn that there was 5 school board members that were all calling for you to come and come into our community and bring your expertise into our community. And to have you on this board and to have you connected with the Children's Trust is really an exciting time for everyone in Alachua County.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for
My excitement
taking that
also.
on. And then Judge, I mean, I gotta say, you have put trauma care into the ethos of this board. You will be missed, but you will be remembered often. And you are always welcome to come if you are as a member, but thank you for really just inserting so much into this board. We're
Thank
gonna
you
miss
so
you. Yeah.
And you can always zoom in.
And just,
I
where
don't
you are, Denise?
Yeah, I don't see Cheryl on anymore. Do you have anything else? Okay, and with that, then we are adjourned.
10 minutes is there.
Well, I was over last time.